the original Stanky Legg, or my close encounter with a very angry skunk. Tawas, Michigan is a beautiful place to vacation and even more so an awesome place to live, as I was privileged to do for a while. And a number of years ago, I spent the summer with my son Dennis and a friend of his named Nate there in Tawas. Despite my age, which at that time was about 57, I rode my bike a lot while I was staying there. It basically was the only, method of transportation I had. At least 3 times a week, I would ride to Oscoda and back, a distance of around 40 miles, when taking the back roads as I did. And as you may assume, I encountered many critters of the woods, and most were fun and fascinating, as God's creation always is. One very hot summer night, I decided to take a bike ride on the rustic 2-lane road that leads out to the lighthouse on Tawas Bay. And as I recall, there was a very nice paved bike path, but it only went about halfway to the lighthouse. On that entire stretch, which I would estimate to be 3 or 4 miles, there was only one street light, so I was truly riding blind most of the time. Those summer nights. In my adult life, that summer stands out as my favorite and much needed time with my son Dennis to boot. As I was riding along, I felt almost startled as there were no sounds of civilization that particular night. The sounds of the marshland and the woods have always been music to my ears, and it sounded as if a million frogs and crickets were just singing their praises to their glorious God, their Creator. And besides all that, the woods were periodically flashing brilliantly with a green light and what could have only been thousands of fireflies. And once in a while, the full pale moon would show its face from behind the clouds. It was in this splendor, this awesome time with God's creation, that the devil had to step in and smell things up, so to speak, and I mean that literally. What happened next was so very unexpected, for, as I said, I was riding blind, and I didn't see the black and white shape off the side of the road, and she must have been running, because all of a sudden, she ran into the front wheel of my bike or tire. I lost control of the bike as something struck the side of the front tire, and I heard an angry chattering as something ran off, but there was no time to wonder what I had hit, because it seemed almost instantly the air was filled with the pungent aroma of skunk. Not only had it sprayed the bike tire, but it also got my legs as well, and that's why part of the title is the original Stanky Legg. Well then, as I said, it all happened fast, and I lost control of the bike and ended up off the road and in the swamp water, which smelled bad in and of itself, but was nothing compared to the smell of the skunk, which, by the way, can be very difficult to get rid of. I sat there in the swamp water and started laughing at it all. Anyone coming by, which no one did, would have thought me to be crazy. Once recovered from the laughing spell, I got back on the bike, which is still known as Old Stinky to this day, and pedaled to a friend's house, which was about a mile away. There I took a bath in diluted tomato juice, which helps to cut the smell. Needless to say, after the adventure on that summer night, I began riding much more cautiously, and I doubt the skunk was hurt in our close encounter, and I would not be too surprised that in his or her devious little mind, that it sits back and has a chuckle or two at my expense. Since I'm talking about the smell of skunk, I want to tell you something kind of weird. Most people think this is kind of weird, but when I was in my early teens, I used to go, and I did a video about Pop's Cottage, but I used to go with my parents and my brothers and my sister to Pop's Cottage quite often on Tawas Lake. And it was sealed up most of the time. It wasn't used a whole lot by people. And when you would open it up and go inside, there was the distinct odor of skunk, but not overwhelmingly strong like when I hit the one on the bike. it's a smell from my childhood when it's not overpowering strong that I really love. It has a sweet, musky smell to it. Again, when you're not in close concentration with it and connection with it. But I will always, when I smell a skunk, my mind always goes back to those vacations with Dad and Mom and Frank and Bill and Roseanne up on Tawas Lake. The times I'll never forget. I have no communication with any of my family anymore. My mom and dad passed quite some time ago now. But it's funny how something as simple as a pungent odor can bring back so many memories. Anyways, that was my Stanky Legg encounter with a very angry little skunk. Thanks for taking a listen.